Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Writing Gals. Today, we're going to see if Amy makes it in time to join us. She's had some things come up and she's running a little bit late, so I'm going to kind of take over for her for a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about what I did right following what we did last week, where we talked about things we wish we would have known to do better when we first got started. But before we get into that, since people have made it clear they like to hear what we're up to, who wants to start today and tell us what you've got going on? Go, Victorine.
Me. I am at a writer's retreat right now with Danielle and Lisa, and I am working on a new thing for me. I'm working on a young adult paranormal story because it's this little write me in my ear and it wouldn't shut up. So I have put my sweet romance on pause and I'm working on
Write me in my ear and it wouldn't shut up.
story.
Hold on. I'm sorry, guys.
Put my sweet romance on.
I was trying to pull up our questions, see if we had any in the group. Go ahead.
I don't see any on our
We don't have any?
team.
Okay, good. Sorry. I was trying to be prepared while you were talking, and then I messed everything up.
That's okay. I'm done talking. I'm just excited about my paranormal angel story that won't shut up. So that's what I'm working on.
We're all excited about it too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you hear me? Is my thing even like okay? I've been muted and unmuted. So okay. So for me, I am launching a book tomorrow. So that's what I've been working on and trying to keep my head in a healthy place because I've just been, I don't know, feeling a little bit crazy and trying not to get my hopes up too high, but also like thinking it's a good book. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's always just exciting to publish a book. And so that's basically what I've been doing. I'm also, planning to make my Writing Gals classes. So that's what I was going to do this afternoon. So
fantastic.
I actually started one of my classes yesterday, my business strategies for turtles class. And I'm having fun, okay, I got a little bit too much into the design of the slides, with turtles and flowers and cute things. So I'm not finished with the meat of the class yet, but it looks really cute.
Yeah, really aesthetically pleasing.
Yes. So that's been fun. I've also been kind of just trying to manage life and not being super successful with writing my young adult book, but we had Kindle Vella bonuses announced yesterday, and it was really exciting. I think everybody across all the Kindle Vella readership or authorship is excited because the bonuses are for pretty much everybody in the program. You just get a scaled amount according to how much sort of interaction you're getting, and nobody quite knows the metric that they're using to determine how much of the bonus every author gets, if it's by episodes that you've had read or whether or not a lot of readers have favorited your story, if it's a combination of everything. But I was just going to say it was exciting enough to see that it's actually a profitable thing for me, that now I'm like, okay, time to get going on some more stories. But there's some weird things with this program that I haven't figured out and nobody has answers to that I can find anywhere, because I published my first story as a co-writing story. Obviously, half of the bonus goes to my co-writer, but if I start putting out other stories that are just under my name, there's nothing to tell you what percentage of the bonus goes to which books. And since everybody's getting bonuses, whether it's $10 or $500 or $3,000, it's all different amounts. It's going to be really hard to say this is for our co-written book and this is for my books. So we're all just kind of waiting to see if they differentiate it in a report.
Yeah. Could you create a different account? I don't know.
So right now I'm looking at either maybe setting up a publishing company with a separate account, or I'm gonna probably call Amazon and be like, hey,
This
can
is
you
something you
tell
need to
me?
figure out.
Yeah, either figure it out or tell me if you've already figured it out and you just haven't told us yet.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Love to
I'm
know that.
sure you're not the only author with
Yeah.
this problem. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. So far, there's nothing official out there anywhere that anybody knows. So we're all just kind of figuring out this Vella thing as it goes along. But if anybody watching this has been curious if, Kindle Vella is making money, it is starting to make money for some people as far as Amazon rewarding authors for doing really well with, readers, bringing readers in and keeping readers engaged. So right now it's going really well. And I'm excited because I have a Vampire Academy book that I want to put up on Kindle Vella.
Is it the one that we got to hear the first chapter of a while ago?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. It's called Night Bloom Academy.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways.
that sounds like fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we should get into our topic today, which is what I did right. And so we're talking a lot about resets and goals. And one of the big ways to figure out what your goals need to be is to figure out, obviously, what you've been doing right as much as what you've been doing wrong. So does anybody want to jump in and kind of talk about things that they feel they did right so far in their career that they want to keep moving forward with? Yay, go Victorine.
All right, so I asked Danielle and Lisa if they wanted to come on and talk about what they feel they've done right, and they said yes, they would.
Oh,
so I will have one of them jump on right now.
Yeah, announce them a little bit more formally because I don't know if everybody's gonna know who they are. So Danielle
introduce Danielle Ferguson is another sweet romance writer. And she's awesome. She's a great friend of mine. And here she is. And she's going to tell us all the things she's done that she felt went good.
Oh, all the things?
Well, whatever you want to share. You don't have to tell all.
She's so funny. So I was thinking about two things. One of the things that has consistently been really good for me throughout my writing career has been writing retreats. Just because that gives me some dedicated time away from home and my commitments as a mom and to my family or church or anything else that I have going on. And it helps me to remember why I loved writing, because I'm not trying to squeeze in my writing or squeeze in other things around my writing. Like, it takes all the stress away and I get to just remember this is why I loved doing this. This is why I got into it. And I get to hang out with really fun people and it boosts me. It just lifts me up and makes me remember my value as a person in the writing community and the friends that I have. So writers' retreats consistently have been really, really good. One of the things that I just recently changed that has really, really helped me a lot is I changed writers groups. And that was really hard to kind of put myself out there again. And Victorine totally helped me with that. And I messaged her and I'm like, I heard you did these groups and I missed out on it. Is there anyone who still needs a friend? And so if Judy, Allison, or Sarah are watching, like, they're my people. And that has been really good for me coming off of a year and a half of just focusing on my family getting through COVID and balancing all of my kids' different emotional needs and everything that they had going on, and deciding that it was time to reinvest in me and to get back to what I wanted to do. And being a part of that writers group fills me up every single week. And we laugh and we talk about our chapters. We read for each other. We give feedback for each other in good, positive ways for things that are constructive and things that we love. And that has just been a huge boost for me. So those are two things that I have done that have really worked well for me and that have been right. So
awesome.
Love
Anyway,
that.
Yeah.
Thank
for
you.
inviting me to share.
Yeah. So fun having you on the show.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely benefited from having my author support group and from having good, robust critique. So thanks, Danielle. Those were great. And now we have Lisa
All right, here is
Swinton.
Lisa Swinton. She's another author that writes sweet romance and on our retreat with us. And I'll let her take it away. What did you do right?
Next time, I want to go before Danielle. She has such great answers.
She took your answers.
So I am totally in agreement with what Danielle said, and then I'm going to add 2 more things on top of that. So one is going to conferences. The Writing Gals do a fabulous virtual conference that is just amazing, and in-person ones are super awesome too, when you get to be with your tribe and connect with your people and make those connections and form those new relationships and renew old relationships. Those are great for learning, for networking, for growing, and to feel like, oh, all those voices in my head, that's totally normal. We're all good here. So that would be one thing. Critique groups, I absolutely second Danielle, and I would never have written my first book or any books since if I had not had a critique group. But my other second thing is learn craft. Craft was probably the other thing that was huge for me, because I had no aspirations to be a writer. And so it started from, I loved reading, but started from ground zero, and going, learning craft through critique groups and going to conferences and connecting with people was really what were probably the big things for me as well. So those are my 2 cents for whatever they're worth.
Really great.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lisa. Sorry, I was like all kind of crazy. Amy just got here.
Yeah, we were wondering what you were doing.
I know. I was like, she was coming in the door, and I was like, oh, she needs somewhere to sit. Maybe she's not screwing with me. So that's so fun, and I would just definitely agree with everything they said. Were you going to add anything, Victorine?
So I thought of one, and this is probably really lame and probably bad advice. But this may sound really stupid, but the one thing I think that no one else is going to say that I felt like I did right was when I first started publishing, I kept my expectations super low. Like I was like, I'm not going to sell like any books today. And if I sold the book, I'm like, yes, I sold the book. I beat my expectation of 0 books today. But it made me celebrate the little stuff, right? Rather than feeling depressed. If I had expected to sell 100 books that first day and I didn't sell any, I would have been devastated. So I kept my expectations like super low, and my goals, I inched my goals up according to what I figured I really could hit, rather than saying, all right, tomorrow I'm going to sell 100 books. You know, I said, okay, I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to chat with people. I'm going to be social, and I'm going to do this until I sell 1 book. And so, and then after time, I would wake up and a book was already sold. And so I'd be like, okay, I could do this till I sell 3 books. And I just kept inching that up slowly instead of setting my goals way super high. And I don't know, I felt like it worked for me. So
yeah, I think that's actually really good, because I even have a quote to remind me of that on my wall. It says, nothing will screw you over more than your own expectations. So true, because I just get in my head so much because of my super high expectations, and it's better to just not expect amazing and just be happily surprised if it happens. And always, always still work hard and do your best, but yeah, having all those expectations can really mess you over. So that's why I'm such a disaster right now with my book coming out tomorrow. Okay.
So do you have anything for us, Judy?
Yeah, I have like 3 pages. I know.
Wow.
Judy did everything right.
So Amy said,
look at all these things I did right, guys.
Amy said we do have a few questions on Facebook just for timing reference. Okay. So like hit the highlights for us.
Well,
yeah, I'm just listing them really. It's not
one
like
of them is just like, what would you say was the best thing you did?
So we're kind of already doing that.
Which is what we're kind of already doing.
Okay, so
go for it.
Okay, here's my list. Things I did right. So some of them will go along with what has already been said. So something I did was I really studied the genre that I was writing in so that I knew what worked and what readers liked and connected with. So I was a reader first in that genre, and I loved it. And so I really kind of knew what I liked about it and knew what to do with it. And then also I would read the reviews of the books that I was reading and that I liked and see what the reviewers were saying. So I could also learn from those and see what other readers were enjoying, or maybe things they didn't like as well. So I knew what to kind of do with my own books. I wrote in a market, so I wrote to, we always talk about like writing to market, but I naturally did write to market, but in a genre that I loved. So a lot of people think when they hear the write to market thing, they think, oh, okay, well, romance sells well, so that means I better write romance. But really, I think if you actually really love the genre that you're writing, it will show and you will do better in that genre. And then learning to write to market in that genre is good. And then, like was said earlier, having critique partners and beta readers to help me really hone my craft and get the books to a better level than I could get on my own. So that was helpful. And I did that for several years before I started publishing. So I really think that getting the craft to a really good level before, of course not, you can't get to perfect, but having a really high quality book before you start publishing will just help you kind of hit the ground running. So that helped, even though I revised and revised for a really long time. I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know. It worked out for me. But so I think just having that done. And then also I think publishing my first 2 books 3 weeks apart was helpful because it helped readers have something more to remember me by and something to go to after they finish my first book. And then also staying in the same series and genre for a couple years helped me build momentum in that. And I already knew that I loved that genre, and I'd gotten the initial, I was doing well enough in it that it made sense to stick with that. So I think that was helpful instead of hopping around, because it's harder to gain momentum if you're jumping around everywhere. And I had the newsletter and social media stuff set up so that the readers could connect with me after they found me. And I think just building a good relationship with them is helpful as well. You can't spend all your time there because, yes, still writing books is the best way to go about it. But just kind of being, I don't know, there is good too. And then also doing promotions and advertising at the beginning was good. Having those free days and just kind of helps you get your name out there and have people take a chance. And networking with other authors in my genre helped with that a lot. And like they said before, going to writing conferences was really helpful. And even, watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts on craft was really helpful. And yeah, that's mostly all of it, I think. So that's my list.
A lot of really, really good stuff there. Important things, for sure. I think if I was to say my biggest ones, I would take the concept of your critique groups and things like that and like add a very specific point that I had to learn to do, and I think it was very smart that we all need to do, is to learn to take the critique. Like, it's one thing to show up for a critique group or to give somebody else your manuscript and say, what do you think about this? And it's a completely different skill to say, okay, they didn't like this part, I need to fix it, or this is something I need to improve on. To learn how to manage the criticism and to find a way to be productive with it and improve yourself. That's, I think, what most new writers are going to struggle with the most, is that feeling of rejection or failure that you get from someone else telling you what you wrote isn't good enough. And so honestly, you just have to flip your mindset to where I would rather have critique partners and beta readers and editors tell me what isn't working so I can fix it, rather than having readers tell me what's not good. You're still always going to get the negative reviews, but I always flipped my mindset to being like, I would rather have people tell me what's wrong with my book so I can fix it before I publish it and have reviewers tell me. what's wrong with it. And so that's a skill that I was very, very much improved by gaining that skill, growing that skill. It's something you have to do on purpose. It doesn't come naturally to any of us. Oh yeah, and Christy mentioned in the comments that being a good critic is also an important skill. It is. Learning how to tell people what is good and what needs to, some work, and trusting them to like figure it out on their own, and not telling them you need to change this in this way. That's a tricky part of critique, is that other people might be able to say what's wrong with it, or you might be able to say what's wrong with someone else's story, but the author is the only one that can fix it. Okay, and then I think the other thing is that I was very passionate and enthusiastic about developing my stories. And so what I did right was learning how to really develop my characters, my backstories, my descriptions for like my scenes, my world building, and all the important pieces of my plot. So that's something that as a pantser I wasn't good at to start with, but it's something that I figured out was really important. And I found fun ways to do it by using Pinterest and building inspiration boards, by putting playlists of music together that inspired certain concepts or themes that I wanted to bring out in my story. And everybody's going to have their own process, but that was something I learned was very important for me to be successful as a writer, was to be excited and inspired, and also to sort of fill my pockets with all of the good things that I wanted to put into my story. And every once in a while, I get so busy trying to get stories out quickly that I forget to take that time to really, spend developing my story. And when I go back to it, it always makes my stories better. I might think of more, but I don't know. And so we're going to see what Amy has to say.
Hey guys, sorry I was running around like a crazy person. But I would say I had a couple of things that I think I did right. I wrote, because we get a lot of questions, and I see a lot of questions about pen names and genre hopping. I think one of the best things I did was I made sure I wrote at least a couple of series in one genre or reader age group before I moved on to something different. That way I could continue feeding, or if I brought more people in through those things, they had more things to read through. So I had 2 adult series before I moved on to young adult fiction. And then I had more of those, and then I moved into paranormal, but nobody really knew about my paranormal. So that was kind of a separate thing. The other thing I did was I invested in myself, which is huge. I think when you're starting out, my husband was very much like, whatever you make is yours to keep. And now that's not true anymore, but I do remind him on numerous occasions that you said whatever I made from my business, I got to spend on what I wanted to. But I reinvested money that I made back into my business. I got covers, editing, advertising. And it's kind of just been a habit now that my business comes first. And well, now also our household does, but my husband's also very aware, like, advertising is important. I'm moving into translations, audiobooks, all those types of things are just now a part of my, I just spit on you, Michelle. I'm sorry. A part of
I got kids. They do the same thing.
A part of my normal part of my career is that I'm always just moving into the next thing to grow my income. And then the other thing is, and this is in the beginning, because now I'm not so much like this, but I really took every opportunity that I could have to do things, to swap with people. Anybody who reached out to me, I always made sure to check it with people and not just write them off as crazy people. Like if they were like, hey, we want to, put your book into an interactive novel, and I said, okay, because I was thinking anywhere you can find new readers, anywhere that I could get my product or my information in front of maybe a movie producer or something like that, I'm going to take every avenue that I can. And even if it does take time, it's important to me to be out there and be seen. And then when it comes to craft, I would say I learned how to divorce my books. And I'm not emotionally attached to them. I am more than happy to change things if people don't feel like it's working, within reason. but I never really feel like, no, this, this is my precious book. Like nothing can happen. No, I'm like, I don't even remember what I wrote in 2 books ago. And if it's a big enough deal, especially with somebody that I trust and they say, hey, you need to change this, I'm like, all right, I'll change it. And then just creating a good relationship with my readers, I think is super important. And readers watch what you do. They watch how you interact. I had in my Facebook group, somebody get on and complain about my pricing of my paperbacks. And I was really polite to them and explained to them that, they're all the same word count. People can manipulate paperbacks to look bigger or have more pages. But I was really nice to her and I didn't delete it and I didn't blast her. And like, I was surprised how many people came to my rescue and said, these books are great. You can't go wrong. We love Anne Marie's books. Like basically kind of being like, you're a little silly here, lady. Like that's what you're complaining about. So I really like having that. And so being very aware of the persona that you are portraying on social media is very, very important, because you could turn off a lot of readers either direction that you go. So just being there for them and your books. And then obviously having really good relationships with other authors has been important too.
Okay, I thought of one more thing I want to add. I made a very concerted effort to learn how to write better first drafts. And that is something that I think is a very bad, rule that so many authors get told, is that all first drafts are bad first drafts. And it's not true. When you start, all your drafts are bad first drafts. And maybe for many, many years, they're all bad drafts. Or, but at some point, if you want to be a professional writer, you have to learn how to write better in the first place, right? The cleaner it's not like you can just take like a big muddled tangled mess of a story and turn it into the best story. Editing is really hard, and the cleaner your story is, the better it is, the better you build in the foundational structure of a story from the beginning, the better your characters are in the beginning, the better you can make it in editing, right? It's not like you're going to go from like 1 to 10 with a bad rough draft to your finished product. If you start at like a level 7, 8, or 9 rough draft, then your editing can be like at a 20. I'm just trying to throw the numbers at you to show the concept. Like the better your rough drafts are, the better your final product can be after editing. And so my goal has always been to get better at writing my rough drafts. And you do that by learning with every single book you write, by developing that muscle memory of what story structure is, by going into it knowing the things that are important, knowing that you have to have your conflict right, knowing how to make your characters have a growth arc across the story, knowing that you need to arrive at all of these different story beats at certain points in your story. And the more you write, the more you learn how to do all those things right the first time, right? And so I would say that was something that has definitely made a difference for me, was learning that you can improve even at the first draft level, and that it makes all the difference when you're going on and trying to create really, really, really good stories, but also do them quickly and also put them out quickly. Everybody who thinks that because you put stories out fast, it must mean that they're, terrible stories, or that the author's lazy and doesn't put much effort into them, don't take into account the level of skill and expertise that can go into writing a story. And that somebody who's really good at it is able to put out a good product from the beginning. And, they're basically leaping ahead through stages that other authors are fumbling around in for, years. So learn how to write really good first drafts.
Yeah. Agreed.
We have a couple questions here. Was there anything you wanted to touch on before? Okay, so we have a question right here. It's Laura Burton. She says, I'm curious what you guys think is the difference between critique and beta reading. So I've been kind of mulling this over. For me, critique, especially if you're talking about critique partners or critique groups, it's a much more sort of, I wouldn't say permanent, but like, what's the word? like an arrangement you make to stay with the same people and keep working with the same people, and you develop each other over time, right? So it's not like one story. It's you're going to stay with those same people for a long time. Critique itself is being able to go in and discuss at, like a line or copy level sort of element in your story, and also the broader picture. Be able to say, hey, you're improving in this way, like your dialogue's getting so much better, like that kind of critique. Versus beta reading, to me, is a lot more, it's not as personal, and it's something that you might reciprocate with the beta read, but not necessarily with critique. You usually are critiquing for everybody involved. Beta reading is more like, I think, a different point in the process as well. I would almost call critique, like the way I've used it, as like an alpha read.
Yeah.
So my critique people see it before anybody else does. And then after I've made, those improvements, then I seek out beta readers. And those are, in my opinion, should not be other authors. Beta readers are best if they're other readers, because you're getting to the point in the story where you want to see how readers are reacting naturally to them. You don't want it to be authors, because authors, have you ever noticed that, like, the more you know about an art form, the less the less you're able to enjoy it and appreciate it? Does that make sense? So, like, if you know a lot about sewing, you're going to be really particular about whether stitches are straights, or if they put French seams in, or like, whether their buttonholes are done well. Where if you don't know anything about sewing, you're just like, wow, it's an amazing dress, right? That's the difference between critique and beta readers. Like, I think beta readers need to still have that sort of mystic feeling of how story works, rather than only seeing the structure and the bits and pieces of it. You want someone who can just see the experience and tell you if it's working or not.
Yeah, I think another thing is with critique partners, I think they go on they work with smaller chunks of a story.
Yeah.
So like a chapter or a couple of chapters at a time, and really hone in on that on a deeper level. Where beta readers, you're usually sending like a full manuscript to them, and they could just go over the whole story.
Very
yeah,
true.
that's exactly what came to my mind. More like a micro level. Critique is more like micro level, and beta reading is more like macro level to me.
Yeah, and it's weird. You would think it would be the other way around, because usually when you do your edits, you do it like developmental, like story edits broadly, and then you get narrower and narrower until you're doing typos. But when you're doing critique and beta reading, it's kind of flipped the other way around. Do any of you girls use story beats? If so, which one do you like? So maybe she means like a plotting technique, like 3-act story structure, Save the Cat, the hero's journey, something like that.
Or maybe like romancing the beat. Is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure which actual like plotting system she uses in that. I think it's more 3-act story structure, if I remember right. But like in all of those, and there's other ones, like the beats are all kind of similar in a lot of ways, and they're called different things. And sometimes, like, the hero's journey has some beats that, like, the 3-act story structure doesn't necessarily hit on. If I was to say that I use anything, I use a 3-act story structure, and I use Robin Gold's spreadsheet a lot that she has. We've talked about it in other podcasts. Just look up Robin Gold. What did she call it?
Is it Robin or Jamie?
Yeah,
Is it
Jamie.
I think it's Jamie Gold.
Yeah, it's Jamie.
See, I don't know what I'm talking about.
A beat sheet, I think. Jamie Gold's
Yeah.
beat sheet. I think if you Google that, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving me. Yeah, I just have I just have her beat sheet saved on my computer. So
I was like, maybe her sister wrote another one.
Well, I don't know why I'm picking Robin up. I wonder if Robin there's a Robin that wrote another book on craft. But anyway, so basically her beat sheet works really well, because she has the spreadsheet where you can put in the word count that you're aiming for, so then it adjusts the word count and the page number where you should be arriving, like loosely around to all those beats. And then she also has an explanation. So she has the name of all the beats, and she has an explanation of what they all are. And so it's really easy to use it both for learning and going in and filling in your own stuff on the spreadsheet. But what I was going to say is, like, over time, I've gotten to where I don't need to reference the beat sheet anymore because I just know what they all are. Sometimes if I get lost or blocked, I'll go in and I'll plug everything in and see if I've messed up somewhere. But that's what I use. Anybody else?
I use like the 3-act structure, and then I've just kind of created my own certain beats that I know that I'm always going to hit along the way. So I've used Jamie Gold things, and I think mine is pretty similar to that. But I don't like look at anything anymore. I'm just like, okay, I'm at this point in the story, time for something like this to happen.
So if you're
That's
writing,
what I do too.
If you're writing romance, the 3-act story structure works really, really well because you have like the meet cute and all those sort of things in the first act, then you have the bulk of the story in the second act, and then you have your happy resolution and epilogue stuff in the 3-act, and so it works really well. But if you're writing fantasy or thriller or something like that, then something like the hero's journey may work better for you.
Yeah. And I've also used Dan something 7-point plot structure, so mine's kind of like mixed with that too. He's on the Writing Excuses podcast. Dan Wells. Yeah, that's his name.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've listened to that. I should probably do that again.
That's all the comments and questions we have. Anybody else? Do you want to wrap it up?
No, you got it.
So we hope that something we said today, resonated with you, something you wanted to dig in and try, or go back to doing because you've not done it for a while. And next week, we're going to come back around and we're going to start talking about goals and how to set them, how to make them matter and work for you. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.